Today's episode is brought to you by Conduit Clothing Company. I get asked, of course, quite often, what is it going to take to turn our communities, our states, our nation around? And that's going to be the same thing every single time. It is soul-to-soul, heart-to-heart combat at the spiritual level. That's where Conduit Clothing Company comes in. Not only do they make very high-quality clothing with an exceptionally cool design, their mission is to get a Bible into the hands of as many people as possible. Maybe you're wearing the Conduit Clothing trucker hat like I do, or you're looking at some of the new selections for the ladies in our audience, like the super soft cropped top hoodie, as well as the new women's V-neck shirt. You can check out all of their products at conduitclothing.com. A neighbor, co-worker, friend, what have you, sees the evocative Conduit Clothing logo, and boom, there's a chance to strike up a spiritual conversation. Plus, every order ships with a hardcover ESV Bible. Conduit Clothing Company, cool clothing, quality clothing that leads to crucial conversations. Be a conduit for Christ at conduitclothing.com. That's conduitclothing.com. It's Thursday, October 23rd, 2025. The U.S. keeps blowing holes in boats. President Trump's got a beef with Republicans on his hands, and Ron DeSantis is for real about property taxes. Next on the AM Update.
I mean, shutdowns are terrible. And of course, there will be, families that are going to suffer. We take that responsibility very seriously. But it is one of the few leveraged times we have.
There is Democrat Congresswoman Catherine Clark. She is the number 2 Democrat in the House of Representatives, just overtly and casually at the same time saying there, yes, we understand the pain that this is causing to some families around the country, but it's one of the only few leverage points we as Democrats have, talking about the ongoing Democrat government shutdown. Here's President Trump at the White House yesterday.
Asia, and if not, why not meet with the Democrats?
Well, I think it's a shame that it's shut down because we have the greatest economy, as you were saying before. We have the greatest economy in the world right now, by far, the United States. We have almost 18, now it was 17, now it's $18 trillion being poured into our country, and it's no time for shutdowns. I don't think it's affecting what we're doing, but it's too bad for a lot of people. We have a lot of good people that are working right now that should be, and it's because the Democrats want to try and renegotiate a deal that they had negotiated. They want $1.5 trillion given to illegal immigrants who came into the country. And
so there's President Trump at the White House, once again, just restating the overall state of play when it comes to the government shutdown. I've mentioned this now 3 times this week. The more I think about it, the more perplexed I actually am. The Democrats continue to say they want an extension of the Obamacare Affordable Care Act subsidies because it's going to be so unaffordable for American families. Health insurance is going to become so unaffordable that it's going to be a political liability for them. Well, they're not in control right now. Wouldn't it be better off for Democrats if they just allowed those subsidies to lapse? Wouldn't it just be better off for them? None of this is making sense. The U.S. military launched its 8th strike against drug-carrying vessels in ocean waters, killing 2 people in the waters of the eastern Pacific Ocean. That's according to Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, marking an expansion of the Trump administration's campaign against drug trafficking in South America. The attack Tuesday night was a departure from the 7 previous U.S. attacks that had targeted vessels in the Caribbean. Hegseth said on social media, the latest strike killed 2 people, bringing the death toll to at least 34 from attacks that began last month. At the White House yesterday, here's Secretary of State Marco Rubio responding to some pearl clutching from the drive-by media.
Yeah, well, the question is, bottom line, these are drug boats. If people want to stop seeing drug boats blow up, stop sending drugs to the United States.
But does it matter if it's in the United States?
Well, these are all in international waters.
The boat. Do a strike in the United States, or if
well, that's a different matter. Now you're talking about a law enforcement matter. In this particular case, there are people traveling on international waters headed towards the United States with hostilities in mind, which includes flooding our country with dangerous, deadly drugs.
Boom, no pun intended from Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Quote, if people want to stop seeing drug boats blown up, stop sending drugs into the United States. It's just as simple as that. Well, President Trump has a beef, or some Republicans have a beef, no pun intended, with him over his plans to purchase Argentinian beef to bring down, purportedly, the price of beef for the consumer in the United States. A group of House Republicans is raising concerns about that plan. North Dakota Congressman Julie Federchuk is leading 7 other House GOP lawmakers in a letter to President Trump, warning the potential plan has rattled the multi-billion-dollar American ranching industry. The letter says, quote, America's cattle producers are among the most resilient and hardworking in the nation. Collectively, the cattle industry supports thousands of jobs across our districts and contributes $112 billion to rural economies nationwide. President Trump, seemingly responding to that letter, said in a post on Truth Social, quote, the cattle ranchers who I love don't understand that the only reason they are doing so well for the first time in decades is because I put tariffs on cattle coming into the United States, including a 50% tariff on Brazil. If it weren't for me, they would be doing just as they've done for the past 20 years. Terrible. It would be nice if they would understand that, but they also have to get their prices down because the consumer is a very big factor in my thinking also. So President Trump, one of his probably most ardent groups of supporters, those would be ranchers, farmers, things of that nature, skills and people of those natures. They are not very happy with his plans to purchase Argentinian beef. He says his motivation is not just protecting the American rancher, but also bringing down the price of beef for the American consumer. I think there's probably more afoot here. I think Javier Milei in Argentina, the American right-wing press loves him to death, it seems like. I do think that there is a little bit more of a tenuous nature of his stint in office as Argentinian president. I think he's still trying to get that economy off the ground. And I think President Trump is just trying to do him a solid by boosting imports from Argentina. That would be my guess. Meanwhile, back at home, this is Democrat Representative by the name of Robert Garcia of California. He's part of the House Oversight Committee. He wants to track ICE agents, Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents. Listen to this.
I shared this with the mayor. Over the course of the next couple of weeks, the Oversight Committee will be launching on their website a master ICE tracker.
He's talking to Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass.
Where we're going to be essentially tracking every single instance that we can verify that the community will be able to send us information on.
So that is Congressman from California, Robert Garcia, saying Democrats in the House of Representatives are launching what he's calling a master immigration and customs enforcement tracker on their website to track the movements of immigration and customs enforcement. Now, it's unclear to me whether this is real-time data. If this is real-time data, then this is just the latest example of how the Democrat Party, at the very least, this congressman and anybody who supports this move is an enemy of the state. Now, if this is just like, hey, this is where ICE was last week, whatever, who cares? But if they are trying to launch via the federal government, funded by the American taxpayer, an application of some sort that actually in real time tracks the movement of immigration and customs enforcement agents that would put their lives and livelihoods at risk while they're just trying to do their job, their constitutionally protected and mandated job, that's insurrection-y type stuff. That is absolutely, I don't know what the word would be to describe it. It's just seditious. It's just seditious. Unbelievable. How about this? Also in California, video emerged yesterday, dash cam footage emerged yesterday of a semi-truck in Ontario, California, failing to apply his brakes as he slammed into multiple vehicles, killing 3 individuals. The 21-year-old who was arrested at the scene is being suspected of being under the influence of likely alcohol. At first, the identity of the truck driver in this case was not released, but later it came out. Jashanpreet Singh. Mugshot still not available in the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department database. He is under arrest now. Jashanpreet Singh is the name of the individual. You have to wonder whether or not he was issued a CDL, yet again, like that driver in Florida. I mean, this dash cam footage, I'm looking at it right now, just heinous. Not applying the brakes at all, just completely plowing into multiple vehicles, setting off a chain reaction that resulted in the deaths of at least 3 individuals. Well, we are on a parade of former White House press secretaries this week. Here is Jen Psaki, now of MSNBC, talking about J.D. Vance and whether or not his wife wants to leave him.
I think the little Manchurian candidate, J.D. Vance, wants to be president more than anything else.
Yeah.
I always wonder what's going on in the mind of his wife. Like, are you okay? Please blink 4 times.
Yes.
We'll come over here. We'll save you. And that he's willing to do anything to get there. And that your whole iteration you just outlined, I mean, he's scarier in certain ways.
He's smarter.
In some ways. And he's young.
Yeah. And ambitious.
And agile in the sense that he is a chameleon who makes himself into whatever he thinks the audience wants to hear from him.
Former White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki, with music to my ears, they fear J.D. Vance, seemingly more than they fear the current president, President Trump. May their predictions and bellyaches come to fruition, I should say. How about that? Throwing a little chicken wing at J.D. Vance's wife, Usha. Quote, blink 4 times, come over here, we'll save you. That's just despicable, but that's pretty much the norm for the average Democrat these days. You know what? I got to hand it to Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. He is serious about abolishing property taxes in Florida. Also, we hear from the GOAT of the NBA. That's coming up next. I want to remind you today's episode is brought to you by Conduit Clothing Company. You know, there is a lot of optimism about the state of the country, even though there is darkness still afoot, and optimism about the economy as well. Even though there is that optimism in place, we have to start putting our money where our mouth is and building the parallel economy, even when it comes to things like clothes. That's why I've partnered with my friends at Conduit Clothing Company. First of all, you'll be utterly impressed by the quality of their shirts, their hats, their dry-fit long-sleeve shirt. I've worn that a few times, so comfortable to wear. Just got my new hoodie, super soft, from Conduit Clothing. Plus, the evocative Conduit Clothing logo is sure to lead to some spiritual conversations with your non-believing friends or coworkers, and that's the whole mission of the company. It's to spread the gospel and get a Bible into the hands of as many people as possible. Every order ships with a hardcover ESV Bible. Do me a favor, do our friends at Conduit Clothing Company a favor, say thank you for their sponsorship of the AM Update and visit them, look at their catalog of clothing at conduitclothing.com. That's conduitclothing.com. Never doubt Florida Governor Ron DeSantis.
So we got to put it on the ballot, and the voters have to approve it. It's a constitutional issue in Florida. It's not something the state derives revenue for. It's a local issue. We're trying to focus on Florida homeowners and their primary resident. People that have Airbnbs or whatever, you know, that's separate. Yeah. But your personal home, you shouldn't rent it from the government. You should own it. And, you know, you're paying taxes for 50 years, but even for young families, it's become very difficult across this country to make ends meet. Wouldn't it be great if they were able to have home ownership without having the burden of property tax that? So that's coming to a ballot near you in November of 2026, and we need 60% of Florida voters to do it. And I think it's going to be very popular, but it's also something that's not an easy bar to reach when you have an election like that.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has been talking about abolishing property taxes all year in the Sunshine State. And, you know, I've given him a little bit of attention. I just thought this was a pipe dream. And it's not because I didn't think he was serious about it or didn't think even morally that it was the wrong thing to do or anything like that. It's just the reality of the situation is that the Florida state legislature is totally stonewalling Ron DeSantis for obvious reasons, you know, coming off of a primary campaign where he took his shot at the king and missed. And even though that they're great friends and Donald Trump has said as much in the past, it's just the reality that Ron DeSantis doesn't have as much political capital as he once did, maybe, in the Sunshine State. So it's not that I didn't think he was serious about wanting to abolish property taxes in Florida. It's just that I didn't think it was accomplishable. Well, now it's headed to the ballot, it sounds like, in 2026. So I learned my lesson. Do not discount, undercount, or doubt Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. Well, this was an interesting snippet of an interview. The NBA is back on NBC. I know all 5 of you who watch and enjoy the current modern-day NBA are very excited about that. Round Ball Rock is back I do like that song, though. Michael Jordan, as kind of a commemoration of the NBA returning to NBC, sat down with Mike Tirico for this conversation, just reminiscing about the NBA during that era. And he also talked about whether or not he actually plays the game of basketball to this day.
Do you ever pick up a ball and just shoot?
I haven't picked up a ball in years.
No, come on. Just like walk past. There's got to be a hoop somewhere at your place.
You don't see a hoop anywhere around here, right?
I don't.
It's a
Seriously,
reason.
the last time you picked up a basketball and shot it?
I was at the Ryder Cup.
Yeah.
And I rented a house from the owner.
Sure.
He came over to do pictures. He had grandkids. And I was meet and greet and thank him for allowing me to stay in the house. And he had a basketball court. He says, I want you to shoot one free throw. I said, really? And I already paid for the house. It's not like they got to see me. So when I stepped up to shoot the free throw, it's the most nervous I've been in years.
Stop it.
In years.
Stop it. Come on.
And reason being is those kids heard the stories from the parents about what I did 30 years ago.
Right.
So their expectation is 30 years prior, and I haven't touched the basketball.
I hope you swished it.
Absolutely.
Here's Michael Jordan, the GOAT of the sport of basketball, talking to NBC's Mike Tirico. It's kind of a commemoration of the NBA returning to NBC. And the dude just exudes love for that game. I mean, if the league were filled with Michael Jordans and the competitive and ambitiousness that he and pride, that's the main thing. Pride in the game, not vain pride, but pride in the game, pride in his craft. I would still probably watch the NBA. As it stands, though, all we have now are egos, very, very sensitive egos in the NBA, and really no defense to speak of, and just a lack of pride in the craftsmanship overall. Until you get to playoffs, and then it becomes kind of fun, but I still don't watch. All right, let's get to our poll of the week. I asked you, should Curtis Sliwa drop out of the New York City mayoral race? Gave you 3 options and the ability to comment. Yes, obviously, of course not, and I don't care, I don't live in New York City. In last place, third place, yes, obviously, he should drop out. In second place, I don't care, not living in New York City, 28.3%. And in first place, of course not, 51.5% say no, he should not drop out. Auburn Tiger says people get the leaders they deserve. 100% agree. Doom Metal Daryl says they are inevitably screwed. Yep, they are. Even if Andrew Cuomo becomes mayor. Freudian slip, he was already governor. Now trying to become mayor. They're screwed either way. Justin says, I would say yes and see if the Islamist wins. Then we would know that New York City is getting what they deserve and voted for. On the other hand, how much damage would be done and how far could that ripple out to us in redder America? I'm like a torn sweater. I guess I'll stay down south. Country Squire says, time to punt and play defense. Rhino Hunter says, New York City deserves it. Trump, I agree with that. I still don't want to see it, though, if that makes sense. Trumpet Tiger says, Sliwa needs to stay in so we know what proportion of New Yorkers are not politically insane. You know what? Just for that result alone, yeah, I'd say stay in. Terms Against Humanity says, pragmatism and all the wicked weak sauce it entails. Interesting question, though. Regardless, the USA must turn against New York and all the commie New Yorkers. They represent a leaky boil on the ass of the United States. Change my mind. Other than that, they have a wonderful singing voice, Terms Against Humanity says. You know, Terms Against Humanity didn't say that, I did. But Keith says, if I was him, I wouldn't want to be blamed by history as the one who made the Islamist takeover of New York City possible. But we don't know that, though. As Sliwa said earlier this week, it's not as if all of his supporters are magically going to go to Andrew Cuomo. I understand what you're saying, though, Keith. Christian Philosopher says, choice 1, Islamic extremist and Marxist. Choice 2, Islamic simp and absolute scumbag. That would be Cuomo. And choice 3, mediocre Republican. Christian Philosopher says choice 3 should drop out so choice 2 can do the exact same choice 1 would do, but for worse reasons. Yeah. Well said. Doug Katberg said, voted yes simply to deny people him as a scapegoat. The jihadist will still win. Jim Stocker says not a chance should he drop out. Give the people a non-Marxist option. If Mamdani wins, he will beat Cuomo by double digits. At least we'll have confirmation that they're under divine judgment. That's going to do it for a Thursday. Tomorrow is Ask or Tell Me Anything. You can ask me any question you want. Tell me any news story you think needs covered on the AM Update. Make your submissions at Real AM Update on X. Look for the pinned post. That's going to do it, like I said, for Thursday. Back at it again tomorrow. I'm Aaron McIntire, and this is the AM Update.